Now, how e-commerce has transformed the way business is done in India. India e-commerce market is now expected to grow US 200 billion by 2026. And we see much of this growth coming in from the industry that has been triggered by the increase in internet and smartphone penetration. And we've seen the evolution of how consumers interact with e-commerce. Next, please. And it's important because when we look into our research again, we came across evidence that how the total cost of delivery is attributed is more towards the last mile. And 50% of those occur in the last mile itself. Next, please. And to that, so what here technologies do is we develop a simple full service application with more than a straightforward pricing that can help with the end users of fleet operators, the drivers, dispatchers, and the fleet managers in managing their last mile fleet operations. Now, what we call a full service product is to enable and to help you plan your operations from the job planning until the delivery. And we manage to get easy plan tours within the APIs to match your daily jobs to the most suitable vehicle and even workers. Next, please. And having the ability to schedule or pre-plan beforehand, especially with specific fleet attributions, will help drivers a lot. For example, if you look at truck attributes, things like legal restrictions, physical restrictions, loading docks, truck POIs, parking, and so on and so forth, these are really important. Now, the truck attribute parameters that we have is according to what's available and applicable in each country. And this is the main differentiator that we definitely highlight in this particular solution. Of course, much more so in mature countries where you have all these regulations. But for developing countries, it's a build-up because we look into the large national footprint or coverage to ensure we have this covered. Next, please. Now, what fleet planners can create, especially in terms of the complex tour plans with detailed directions, especially in how to access the location and to optimize the driver's time. And will also help to improve ETAs and do more jobs at a time. And they can access the list of jobs against the pool of resources, manpower, and the available fleets and drivers to create the delivery runs for the day. And this is what we want to do with these applications. We want to help fleet operators, fleet managers, to optimize their operations well. Next, please. And sometimes during transit, circumstances change. So whether it's a traffic delay or a delay in border crossing, even a storm or an incident or even a misplaced cargo, right? So the logistics manager struggles to identify the location of the goods and in turn cannot provide accurate predictions for arrival of the customer or even the next mode of transport. And these disruptions require rerouting, which oftentimes occur by the driver and ends in delays, fines, and frustrations. Now, when it comes to multimodal shipping, real-time monitoring is critical. And here provides an end-to-end solution to track high-value goods across different modes of transportation and even integrates with leading logistics systems to provide a more detailed and accurate location of the goods and the potential points of disruptions. Next, please. And to be able to use this in a single platform, we'll be able to help to centralize the operation. So in the last mile context, we have seen fleets moving proof of delivery from paper to digital and to be able to sign on glass. Now, adopting the COVID-safe methodologies is no longer foolproof with just contactless. I know that in certain markets, you need to have even further, so-called safety measurements to help being able to give more assurance to the customers. They won't be exposed and in contact. Now, this is part of it. And we are enabling this access to tablet and deploying on devices. The additional piece, of course, will be in the operations level. Next, please. And being connected always on the road is not a given thing, especially if you're in a location where there's no data network. It can be happening in rural areas or areas where you don't have, 5G, 4G connection. Now, our last mile solution allows drivers to download the maps and even go offline and still be able to navigate while they are offline to their destination. And when the network is available, they can get the real-time traffic information and is able to be rerouted back accordingly. Next, please. And finally, fleet and logistic managers are always looking to understand the driver performance and identify more effective routing options. Now, with post-trip analysis, you can see that whether drivers adhere to the road regulations, follow the routes you generated for them, or even maybe ran into unforeseen delays. And some companies also want to provide coaching or usage-based insurance based on these fact-oriented data regarding the driver performance. Next, please. So in short, basically what we want to give to our customers is three main key value propositions. Firstly is to make sure that we are enabled to optimize operational efficiencies for them and reduce the cost to them. And with the features that help not just the fleet managers, but the drivers as well, in order to retain the workforce and provide driver satisfaction and safety. And thus, with a safe and efficient driver performing the last mile services effectively, it will then naturally increase service quality to the consumers. Next, please. So just to wrap it up, please do connect with us by scanning this QR code. Now, we would love to hear from you on these market solutions or even to co-create and co-partner with us for even a better last mile. So thank you very much. I'll hand it off to IMI and to our moderator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eliza, for setting the context for the discussion. I would now request Mr. Garg to take this forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone joining this very interesting conversation. I think where we are in the last 18 months has taught us that what e-commerce can do. And one of the few discussions that I had with my family and my colleagues was that e-commerce really was the savior for us in the last 18 months. And the last mile delivery really made a difference between having food at home, having medicines at home, being able to solve some of the challenges like in the last 2 months, getting concentrators back at the right places was something that really was solved by organizations like yours. I wanted to start this discussion with all of you with one key question, which is primarily based on the fact that the companies like Ecom, Express, DTDC, Blue Dart has really made a difference. So my first question is to either of you from DTDC, Blue Dart, Ecom, is how are you managing growth scale of business, especially given current unprecedented rise in volumes? This question 12 months back would have been, how are you going to have business? Because now it is unprecedented volumes.
If I can start and take the liberty, thanks. Yes, we all owe it to our frontline staff, which went above and beyond last year, especially when during the lockdowns in India, non-essential e-commerce was practically closed. And I think one thing that that is starting really paid rich dividends is really taking care of the employees, the humanitarian side of it. Last year, when the lockdowns happened, we assured all our employees that their salaries would be paid fully. They had nothing to fear. And I mean, none of us knew when the lockdowns would kind of open up. But when they did, the employees were so happy. They knew that the company was standing behind them. They gave it the best. While the demand surged, I think 80-90% above the pre-lockdown levels. But I think everyone is stretched. Beyond that, we've all, I think, COVID taught us that we should think about business continuity, think about how to make the systems more resilient, how to pressure test systems and operations. And that's where, at least in our company, we have 3 or 4 areas that we've doubled down on. One is investments in technology and data sciences. So to the suite of solutions that Suliza talked about, right? Very, very important for things to scale up, for you to know not just the configuration of the vehicle, but are there areas where there are localized lockdowns or restrictions? There are restrictions in timings. Some areas would operate to allow you to operate at midnight. Some would just say 4 hours in the morning. So feeding that all into your allocation algorithms and systems. Second is, with the unprecedented surge, preparing the infrastructure and automation. So large scale investments into large automation systems that could sort like 20-30,000 parcels an hour, mega facilities that we're building up. Third, I think, is the staff welfare programs. So we've come out with many policies where we continue to pay the salaries of employees for up to 2 years, provide employment to next of kin, keep oxygen concentrators handy for the staff, so people kind of stay connected to the organization. And the last, I think, is sustainability, focusing more along the lines of electric vehicles. How can we use technology, let's say EV? It's become an imperative because the fuel costs are going up. So how can we use newer technologies at the same time reduce the carbon footprint and the costs overall?
Thanks. Any further comments from either
If I take
Michael or Mrinal?
If I take it from what Siddharth said, I think he has covered excellent point over there. First of all, thanks to everybody for the organizing this. Yeah, it was definitely a huge daunting task when the load came last year. This time we were struggling for where from we get the business, because the entire India was into lockdown. And this time it is business chased us. So and they'll still continue to chasing us. So as Siddharth says that to keep these people warm was most important. Okay, those period when business was actually we made a huge loss in the last. If I see that even last 2 months, April and May, almost we are not a funded organization, so we made a huge loss about that. But we ensured that this frontline worker, which is this 70 or 80% of the whole employee, they get full salary, they get fully covered. Okay, the insurance part is being topped up. If somebody's insurance was 50,000 Indian rupees, we made it 1 lakh. When the vaccine was available, we first provided free vaccine to all across. So at least first dose, everybody got it. So those are definitely really help them to stay confident, and not only stay confident on the organization, stay confident to go to market, because you are meeting the next guy who might be infected. Then organizing sanitation, the mask, double mask, regular visit by the earlier times. If I used to visit a hub, people used to doubt why he came. But today, when we are visiting hub, people know that they are inspecting, they are checking, and they proactively come and tell that, sir, we need this. This is not there, so kindly organize this, because it is not that India is such a vast country. I think that's the way people have scaled up. And rightly Siddharth said, and definitely Mike would say more on that management was crucial. We continue to pay the vendors. You know that in India, the fuel price gone sky high, but we have not gone for any negotiations with the vendors, at least for last 4 months. We have negotiated hard with our customer, but we have not negotiated with our partners. We said that we'll continue to pay, because if you survive, we'll survive. Those tidbits has really played well, apart from the technology and various kind of automations of what we've taken. Over to Mike.
Yeah, thank you all. So most of the points are already covered, but there are certain key factors which I'd like to touch upon, because the volumes have been scaling up, and what is the key factor even during the pandemic has been of ensuring that there's stability in terms of the attendance, and that was the biggest challenge. And even with this volume going up and the plannings which go up because of the festive season also, where the volume really scale up beyond control at times. Again, the key factor is again the stability in attendance, and it has a direct relationship with the morale of the employees, the kind of care that has been given. So this already been covered. Again, it also depends on the personal touch from the supervisor and the managerial level. So even during the pandemic, we had at Riga, the success was basically because of the management themselves being on the shop floor, and wherever, even though there were travel restrictions, being available whichever place closest, visiting and boosting morale and ensuring that all their needs are provided, at the same time giving them the morale boost. We all also are aware that even the families were discouraging employees to go to office. Okay, and the kind of restrictions which were there on the roads. Okay, with all this, we ensured that all our offices are up, even at the start of the pandemic. Okay, so most important is that the basic which is required. We can have the best of technology and all the other infrastructure built up, but again, that making man available on the field to meet the customer promise with the required speed is all very, very important. And listening to them to our arrive at solution. Just an example, like the contact delivery, which was a key factor with so much of about infection. Okay, that obviously came out during because of the day-to-day interactions and providing solutions. So the key factor again is going to be, even if you have to go to the future, is finally reaching out to the needs of these employees to make our deliveries smoother on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Michael. I'll quickly move to having a conversation with our colleagues from Netmeds, Swiggy, and others. So the question I have is, what are the changing consumer behavior and patterns making you redefine your operations? Can we start with either Radhe or Bruce?
Sure, maybe I can go first. Yeah. So, see, I mean, our business primarily is last mile, hyper local, on demand delivery. Now, that used to be the case for quite some time, where the predominant focus of operations as such was cost, time, and fulfillment rate, where as long as we can deliver these orders within the stipulated time at a certain cost, things were fine. And all we needed to worry about was only scale, growth, and doing that as agile a manner as possible. What the pandemic has done, very specifically to the customer behavior, is bring in many more considerations to equal levels of importance as cost and time. For example, and to add to that, the complexity of having to roll out all of that in a very, very remote kind of an atmosphere, working from home, and to do it at a very large scale. I'll give you a couple of examples. I think even the previous speaker spoke about contactless delivery, right? Now, how do you change or introduce a new SOP across a 150,000 or 200,000 delivery executives spread across 500 cities in the country to start following this new SOP of contactless delivery without screwing customer experience within a week's time? So these were the challenges that we were faced with because customer experience requirements kind of changed. The other expectation that came from customers was the entire food handling process, all the way from when it gets cooked to how it's handled, to how it's handed over to the delivery executive, how it's picked up by a delivery executive who is tested or temperature checked before the vaccine came and vaccinated, and the handover process became far more finicky than how it used to be earlier. Therefore, how do you then get to a place where the entire supply chain, all the way from the cooks to the kiosk operators at the kitchen, the handover, and all delivery executives, which is, by the way, not a employee kind of a construct, but a gig economy worker, is done in a way where it is foolproof in a remote environment was the biggest thing. So to answer your question, Prashant, while the fundamentals of cost, time, and quality have always been there as customer expectations, the pandemic has brought about permanent incremental expectations from customers in terms of hygiene and worry-free handling of the food, all the way from its creation to its permanent delivery. And how do we do that in a remote working environment using tools that Sue also kind of mentioned is the challenge ahead of us.
Thanks, Radhe. Bruce, do you want to add?
Yeah, sure. But first, before I get into that, I just want to back up to the first comments. We are partnered with these guys, with the couriers. We use the big couriers to get our products into the hands of our customers, and we really love hearing that these big employers are going out of their way to make the courier, the guy at the end of the last mile, to make him feel like he's part of a company, part of a family, as opposed to just being a gig worker out there doing a couple of days work and then floating on to the next job. Because as I said, in some of our preliminary discussions, our brand is in the hands of a young fellow or a young gal on a two-wheeler. And the more that their employer can convey to them that they are part of something important, they are part of something vital, the better off we're going to be. And, regardless of how great we make the technology, there's still going to be a really important human factor involved in that last mile. And it's going to be the hands and the dedication and the commitment of the person on that two-wheeler. So it's really great to hear that, you know, these courier companies are going out of their way to make sure the employees do feel that they're part of something big. Now to the point at hand, you know, what we've noticed most about, you know, the pandemic, it really heightens emotions on both levels. It heightens impatience and anger, and it heightens gratitude. And the crazy dichotomy is you'll find one customer praising you to the heavens for getting him his blood pressure medicine on time in the face of a lockdown when he was in Guwahati in a remote village. And on the other hand, you'll have a guy complaining, "What's wrong with you idiots? Where is my face wash?" So you see the two sides of humanity and how people react. And you know, fortunately for us, and again, you know, we've talked about this before, the fact that we were able to deliver medicines in lockdown conditions, you know, our business has enjoyed incredible growth, along with the incredible pressure of learning how to deal with the growth.
Thank you, Bruce. Does anyone wishes to add here? I think Ranjit, do you want to speak?
Yeah, sure. Just to give you a perspective from Maruti, basically, I think we used the pandemic as an opportunity to actually extend our network. We did a lot of investments in the last mile in warehouses. So it enabled us to reach further parts, more customers, give better services. So if you look at really the last 7-8 months, Maruti has spent the time actually just creating a larger last mile network so that we can get better reach to our customers. And this has enabled us to get more business, especially in the last 2 months, despite a lockdown, because essential services were allowed and couriers were allowed. We were also able to capitalize on it. We had a large customer base who were using us. So I think if you look at the pandemic has been a problem, both personally as well as from a company perspective, but it has also given us a new opportunity, and it has given us a better focus on how to reach customers and solve problems for customers. So I think it's all going in the right way, and I think in going forward, last mile is going to gather more face and get better services into customers.
Thank you, Ranjit. We quickly move on to asking a question from a mobility perspective. What can we expect next level of evolution from mobile platforms mobility? Ramkesh, if you wish to add.
Yeah, as you all know that in mobility, we are talking about 5G services which are on the path to practical in India as well, as this is already launched or in process of launching in many of the country. Once we have 5G network in India, then we will have super fine speed of internet, which will impact many ways. The internet speed will be at fingertips, and the vehicle will communicate with infrastructure, other vehicles, networks, and people who is sitting in office and customer who is sitting at home, and improving safety and traffic flow as well. India is digitizing faster than any trailing market, although it is rapidly modernizing mobile network. They are likely to have performance limitation outside major cities of the India. And if we are linking it with e-commerce of rural India, then rural India is a very vast geography and very vast population. We are talking about 6.5 lakh villages and close to 65% of the population, which is around 90 crore people. Or you can say around 718 districts headquarters. It's a very wide geography, very big market, and in itself is a big GDP from economic point of view. Definitely, when we will have next level of mobility, it will change the behavior of customer. It will change the behavior of production and delivery wise as well. Of course, they will be faster in every step.
Thank you, Ramkesh. Anyone else has a point of view on this? considering you guys have been investing significantly on technology, especially mobile apps and all?
I think if I take a shot at it, I think last 3 years, what has gone behind on the last mile creating delivery app, most of the organizations have created their own app, right? So because everybody has gone on their own style of working, delivery, Ecom Express, Blue Dart, everybody has their own philosophy of how to find the shortest route and all this stuff. So I think this market will get consolidated a bit. Instead of everybody is reinventing the wheel, I hope that, and I wish that standard product on the last mile delivery will classify. Yeah, funded organizations will keep investing on the fund, on the various technology embracement, but the likes of Blue Dart, DTDC, Blue Dart already moved into standard applications. Organizations like us will, instead of reinventing the wheel, will embrace a standard topology and applications per se. And more the addresses, like if we cater more B2C customer, see e-commerce, one benefit is that 82% cases I am the receiver. So I give 100% best address while booking the shipment. In case of a B2B and B2B, the address is still very vague. Address is still just a lamppost. So we struggle. Like definitely, Mike will tell that we struggle to have that B2B, B2C, BFSI customer served. With the penetration of 5G, better maps, I'm sure that good days are around the corner.
Mrinal, if I may add, I mean, even in B2C, right? And I think Bruce and others may resonate. I've gone on deliveries myself and I've seen the address quality being so bad, it's almost like stories. So you would expect a legible address with a road or let's say a town with some landmarks. But it's like, come to this point, right? They would have some market. And then it's almost like a story that you call this person and someone would come and collect the packet. Now, there are a whole bunch of technology solutions out there. Leveraging technology is one thing. But if it's a story, I can assure you no OIML algorithm in the world can solve for that. So these are, while it is our job to take care of the employees, to make them feel part of the mission, to leverage the best-in-class technology stacks, to make the entire ecosystem more efficient. But my request to some of our customers, Bruce, if you're hearing, would also be that the quality of inputs that you guys get, if you could improve that. For example, along with address, if you are able to capture the geocode of where the customer placed the order form, that would also help us triangulate where to deliver the parcels and chart out better routes, not just for let's say the line haul runs, but even the last mile deliveries. It is a work in progress. We see things moving. There are a few who've taken the leap in accepting those. But I believe if we are to really solve any remaining issues, we all have to collaborate effectively so that we can all deliver the efficiency. We alone won't be able to pass on the benefits to the customers if they don't work jointly with us.
Hey, you know what one of my mantras is, you want great customer service, try being a great customer. So that's kind of along the lines of that story. It is a two-way street. In my delivery advice to all my couriers, it says very specifically, on RK Salai, while heading toward Marina Beach, after the TTK flyover, turn left at the next signal. Come to the end of the road, and on the left is Meenakshi apartment. I spell it out so clearly, and since I've done that, everything seems to get here without me getting a phone call. So
we know where to come next for a good coffee.
Yeah.
So Bruce, we now exactly know where Meenakshi apartment is, and we can come for a good coffee with you. Is that right?
And not only coffee, if you come, you'll have to work out. It starts at 7:30, so be on the roof.
Perfect. Yeah.
So Prashant, if I can just
I like the coordinated color of your walls and your T-shirt, which is great.
Thank you.
So just pushing on, so moving on to integrated platforms. How this question is specifically for Abhijit. How integrated platforms like yours, like here, will define future of the last mile delivery, or are defining the future of the last mile delivery? Abhijit?
Yeah, sure. So if you can hear me, okay. So I was it's pretty, exciting and some of these anecdotes and the stories which was getting spelled out. There's a couple of things here, right? As one is, look, I mean, the pandemic has stress tested all the hypotheses, right? From a supplier perspective, supply chain perspective, even the consumers, the way consumers have behaved, and the scale which has brought in. So while the stress tests were happening, it has also uncovered, and we've been able to discover in terms of some of the specific problem statement, and the problem statement, one of the which was spelled out in terms of the addressing, like how do you control the input side of the information, and if the input is not that structured, and then all this conversation around like efficiency and managing the time and cost, etc., becomes very, very difficult. So the important piece is here is bringing all those set of information, which is be it addressing, be it the maps for the cities, the maps for the villages, the network, the estimated time of arrival information. These are very, very critical. So our platform side, Prashant, what happens is we have two sides of platform. One is the workspace, where the workspace is able to get the data from various stakeholders. And I think Siddharth mentioned that it is probably not one can solve this problem. It has to be collaboration, right? Because the set of information is so dispersed. So the workspace is able to kind of manage those set of information, and then a meaningful outcome can be derived. And then the other one is the marketplace, where if a particular stakeholder is having a set of data, and that stakeholder wants to kind of take it out to the ecosystem, that is also possible. And I think that is going to help the cause, which is kind of a effective last mile delivery. So that's how we are helping. But as I said, look, the stress test has really exposed this kind of a so-called the soft edges or the edges, so to speak.
Thank you, Abhijit. Quickly moving to kind of getting the vehicles in play. So this question is specifically for Manish. Manish, how evolved is this model of yours, mini trucks within a city? And is it limited to main cities or kind of tier 1 cities, or we are getting back to smaller cities? Like last month, I went to Dehradun. And frankly, after spending the last 10 years living in Delhi, Gurgaon, I found that perhaps Dehradun was way back in the early 90s still, in terms of what I experienced here versus how well connected we are right now in big cities. Manish, you there? Manish, you are on mute, my friend.
Yes. Sorry, Prashant. Yeah, before I really answer your question, I think I should touch upon what exactly we do. So we are Porter. We are a tech-enabled, on-demand, intra-city logistics company. Put in simple terms, we are an Uber for all goods movement within a city. You want to send any good within the city, you can find a biker to a 407 available on our platform, real-time basis. So I would say market is still in its nascent stages of its evolutionary journey. If I talk about across the country, it's a huge market, but it's a $12 to $15 billion market, and it is highly unstructured. 95% is a still unstructured market, and it's highly fragmented also. So it's a big problem to solve. I would say the entire the solution which we offer, it's in very early stages or nascent stages of it. But to answer your question, whether it's a relevant model, yes, it's definitely a relevant model, because I was just listening to what Mrinal said. There's a need for integrated service which can help with a standard technology which can help in the last mile delivery. So we probably are the solution for this, because we have been doing this for 7 years and we have been serving so many people. Last mile is a big pain for most of the organization, be it logistics company or be it even for the individual customers and consumers. And we have been trying to solve this from every possible type of vehicle you can think of, from a bike to a 407. Regarding the cities, we are currently, we have been there in 12 cities, and we feel that this market is very much relevant in say top 30 or top 50 city. And Largely in tier 2 and tier 3, the last mile delivery is still, there's a lot of unserved demand in the tier 2 and tier 3. And that is what we are actually going after. Though the type of vehicles which might be used in a large city to a smaller city might be very different. In a large city, you can see a 8 vehicle or a 407 vehicle moving around on the streets of Mumbai or Delhi. But in smaller cities, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, where the distances are low, so people prefer smaller vehicles like a 3-wheeler or a 2-wheeler. But yes, the model is very much relevant across the country, at least to top 50 cities, 30 to 50 cities in the country. Yeah.
Thank you, Manish. And perhaps my next question would be both to yourself and Nakul. Regarding electric vehicles, is how critical will be the role of EVs in coming times? And so the question to Nakul is how quickly we are going to get it. So last month I was looking to buy a vehicle and thought electric, and then realized there is not much available that a consumer can buy. But essentially, from one side, how quickly we can electrify. And Manish, are we really moving to everyone on an electric vehicle?
Yes, Prashant, we are very much on it. If you would be, you would like to hear this. So we are already running a complete electric fleet in Delhi for the 3-wheelers. And this electrification is going to happen much faster than what we are thinking, because there's a major reason for it. See, if I talk about a unit economics of a driver, typically percent of daily cost is on the operations. And with electrification, this actually cost has been reduced to zilch. So electrification is definitely on the cards, though it is going to happen in the 2-wheelers first as compared to 3-wheelers. We are seeing a lot of changes in terms of the type of subsidies the government has been giving to push the FAME 2 agenda. But I strongly feel that 2-wheeler electrification is going to happen much faster than expected. Probably what is expected is almost like 50% of our fleet in 2-wheelers would be electrified by 2024-25. Yeah.
Thanks, Manish. Nakul.
Hello, am I audible?
We'll get back to Ranjit because we want to see Maruti having electric vehicles as well.
Yeah, so, just to keep, I agree with Manish basically. Maruti is already invested in about 100 2-wheelers. And I think 2-wheelers is where we will have the maximum edge basically, because we are able to have a good battery backup and able to run the vehicle for about 120. Companies like Hero even have vehicles which run up to 200 kilometers on 2-wheelers basically. So I think that's something there. We also are doing projects with certain companies on 3-wheelers, which have also been successful, but that's very limited because they still can be used in very smaller locations. 2-wheelers are successful, and I think we have already done a fleet of about 100 2-wheelers in 3 major cities, and should be going to about 500 over the next 6 months to 7 months across the Maruti network.
Thanks, Ranjit.
Basically.
Nakul.
Yeah, so thank you, Prashant. Firstly, I would say that the perspective on the electric vehicles from the customer side, I think, has been very well elaborated by Manish and Ranjit as to how they are working with various electric vehicle options available out there and how they're trying to adopt them into their fleets and into their operations. I would like to bring in some perspective from the electric vehicle manufacturing side or the supplier of these vehicles from that perspective. So besides the obvious advantages of reduction in operating costs for the drivers and the carriers because of elimination of fuel costs, so that's a very evident value proposition which is gonna drive or incentivize this adoption or this investigation of electric vehicle technology. However, one another less talked about fact is, and which is very relevant to this particular roundtable, that's the fact that electric vehicles are majorly software-driven vehicles. unlike a ICE vehicle, which is primarily, a mechanical machine. So you would see that, and I'm talking specifically about the larger electric vehicle because that's where we play. We don't do electric two-wheelers or electric three-wheelers. Our focus is on light commercial vehicles and small commercial vehicles. So you can say our variant of electric Tata Ace, which is also used a lot in last mile deliveries, and specifically for cold chain logistics and deliveries of heavy cargo. Uh, so for that range of vehicle, you would see that, a vehicle OS, a vehicle operating system will also come in. You'll have an operating system driving these vehicles to keep on improving their performance. And when you have that an operating system, you have that digital layer to build out a lot of other applications which we can't, even imagine today. And besides that, the current mobility services that we are looking for on the last mile front, the location, the route optimization, fleet optimization will kind of become very strongly integrated with the vehicle operating system as well. So this is another strong value proposition of electric vehicles, which, in coming decades will drive their adoption for the last mile logistics and in general for middle mile logistics as well to a great extent. Coming to the second part of how quickly we see this happening. So, this definitely would be in a phased manner. Today, we are seeing very strong adoption for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. I mean, they're at that cusp, that inflection point of just taking off. Next few years, next 3-4 years are going to be primarily about light electric four-wheelers. And since we know that the passenger vehicle segment is still very small in the country, the cargo segment would be the major adopter of electric technology in the four-wheeler space. And then subsequently, you would see larger and larger vehicle formats also adopting and transitioning to electric. There are some obstacles and problems there that need to be solved related to battery and charging infra. But that's what, essentially all the electric vehicle companies and the vehicle manufacturers are working towards today. And the fruits of these efforts will definitely be, evident in the coming few years. And, the logistics companies working in the last mile would be the biggest beneficiaries of this advent of these technologies.
Thanks, Nakul. So a question for Bruce. Bruce, considering electric vehicles are considered green, how is Netmeds, or for that matter, Radhe can talk about Swiggy, working on ensuring that you make your transportation and reduce the carbon footprint? Is there a goal that you've taken around that to ensure that the food that is delivered, the medicine that are delivered are greener, and you're investing in the ESG agenda?
Maybe I can go first and then Bruce can add. See, I think electric vehicle, more than anyone else, like the previous panelist was mentioning, would benefit last mile logistics players like ours the most. And that's because of 3-4 reasons. One, today on an average, we do close to 40 lakh kilometers every single day on petrol vehicles, right? Now, of course, I'm not even talking about the green aspect of it, etc. Even if you look at the sheer economics, this is one of the biggest cost item for our delivery partners. We all in our businesses want to keep reducing our overall cost per delivery by improving efficiencies. But the major component of this cost is what? The money you paid the delivery partner or the delivery executive. And that needs to go up because of inflation. And these are two diagonally opposite metrics that you need to negotiate as operations, as part of operations, right? The only way we'll be able to do that in the medium term time frame is through electrification, electric vehicles. Now, the problem with electric vehicles not becoming like a wildfire kind of adoption today are multifold. Specific to two-wheelers, I'm saying. Of course, we are seeing a lot of developments over the recent past, but the historical problems have been on both fronts. One, technical problem related to the vehicle itself. Is there a vehicle that can actually on ground, not on the tech specs, but on ground deliver 150 kilometers range every single day in a reliable manner? Is there a vehicle that can be so conveniently plied even during monsoons, even in those not so great roads compared to a diesel vehicle or a petrol vehicle? Is there a vehicle which can actually be acceptable to the delivery executives from a joy of riding, acceleration, etc. is one part. The second bigger part is on how do you finance these vehicles. A typical electric vehicle today, two-wheeler, a decent one, would cost anywhere between 70,000 to 1 lakh or even higher. Now, most of these delivery executives have some access, when I say access, ownership or control of a petrol vehicle. Mobilizing them away from the vehicle by by getting them to buy a new electric vehicle is very, very difficult. It's a major impedance for adoption. Therefore, the capex problem has to be solved. Second, even when you talk about maintenance, etc., will the total cost of ownership, including the cost of acquisition of the bike or its amortization and maintenance and charging, etc., come to a place where on a per kilometer basis, it will be cheaper than petrol? The answer is still a little hazy. The third part is on, in case we don't have a vehicle that has a range of 150, 160 kilometers, where is that battery swapping or charging infrastructure that can reliably ensure that these delivery executives can actually go ahead? Therefore, to summarize, without any doubt, electric vehicle is the holy grail for solid incremental, not incremental, but disruptive level of value capture in unit economics for companies like ours. But the problems we are currently facing are both on the technical side as well as on the financial side and the ecosystem side. And given the interest and activity picking up in this space, we are very hopeful that we'll get a lot of tailwind there as a aggregator of supply or rather consumption of this electric vehicles. Like I said, 40 lakh kilometers are driven on Swiggy every single day on petrol, and we would want to convert as much as of that into electric as possible. But these are the problems that need to be solved together with the ecosystem.
Thanks, Radhe.
I will.
To add?
Yeah. I'll add one thought, and that is that electric vehicles, as long as the eventual power source is going to be traced back to coal, they're not as green as you might believe. Although certainly they are the future. In India, we really need to get off of coal in order to make these vehicles, pan out the promise of a reduced carbon footprint. And I think that's one of the trick bags that you may fall into if you try to portray a green philosophy as part of your communication in order to stimulate, customer stickiness. You may find that this point is raised often by the, your probing customer. So again, the guys who are in the business, I'm sure will have something to say. But I'm no expert on energy. But I do know that, as a Reliance company, that Mukesh Ambani has made a huge commitment towards sustainable energy and reducing the country's dependence on coal.
Thanks, Bruce.
So I'd like to just add a few points on what has been said. So some of these, I'll just quick comment on some of these problems that have been highlighted related to the adoption of electric vehicles. So even though we are in the large four-wheeler space, I'll talk specifically. Would like to highlight what I have seen happening at least in Bangalore with the Swiggy and Zomato's last mile delivery people, that they have started adopting a lot of services that are being offered by electric bikes, like from Yulu and Bounce, for carrying out the delivery operations. So that is a model that I think would definitely be replicated, at least in the metropolitans and tier 1s cities, where you will have hubs of electric vehicles where they are getting charged, and then they are being used for movement of cargo and food items in that vicinity. So this hub and spoke model at a hyper local level would be a way ahead for addressing the last mile deliveries of lighter items. You would need longer range of 100 plus kilometers to deliver heavier goods, which is in the domain of logistics companies, to the various pin codes in the city. Coming to the upstream green energy requirement. So yes, there besides there, I think what doesn't get talked a lot is the parallel efforts that are being made on adoption and penetration of solar energy, as well as allied stationary storage, which is going to so these two things are happening in parallel: the adoption of electric vehicles and their penetration, as well as phasing out of coal and adoption of solar and stationary storage to store and maintain that.
So I'd just like to add a perspective. Yes, there are a lot of customers who come to us as part of the ESG goals, where they ask us if we track the carbon footprint, if what is our plan for electrification. Even the set of investors we have are very conscious about that. I would say we've had limited success in the three-wheelers. There are a few companies out there with three-wheeler where you could do seller pickups in the first mile or delivery of bulk items in the last mile, where we've seen limited success. But then the availability of these operators has largely been in the metros. We operate at like 27,000 pin codes in India. If you think about Jhumri, Talaiya, Pulwama, these are places where you would not have any operators and it's only Ecom Express. So whatever little innovation that we've seen, at least in the three-wheeler segment, it's again in the metros. Two-wheelers, I think I have personally, we've been in touch with 20 to 25 vendors. There's a lot of hope with Ather and Ola with the latest launch. But because of all the reasons that Radhe mentioned, they've not really been consistent in their performance. And even working out the financing or the unit economics of ownership, the ICE engines, the two-wheelers still trump these EV bikes. There is always, I've heard a lot of startups in Bangalore where there is fear of the batteries being stolen, given the batteries themselves cost a whole lot. So I think for those reasons, the two-wheeler story may take some time, although there are positive movements with Ola coming in.
Thanks, Ed. I just want to pick on Ranjit, specifically asking, considering you are the largest manufacturer in India, how quickly we will see more of these two-wheeler vehicles, which are actually green. A great point made by Bruce about saying that, is it really green? Because if they are being powered by coal-generated electricity, then is it really green? Just moving moving the fume from one place to the other. So what's your view, Ranjit?
So we are, this is a very complicated view basically, because on one side, if you look at everybody wants to go green, we want to move to electrification. Yes, there are various things. We are a country which basically uses a lot of coal to make electricity. But at the same time, we are also a country which is trying to go into wind energy as well as solar energy. There's a big, huge push in that direction also. We also want to reduce our consumption of fuel on petrol and diesel. So I think these are challenges which are there, which every single, I think, company who is using the technology or manufacturing the technology is going to face. And I think that's the challenge which we are all seeing here. Like, yes, as Sid said, somebody stealing batteries, that could be unique to only India, basically. It may not be a big problem in some other country. So I think we have a lot of things to learn. We have a lot of ways to change. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in electric vehicles. Maruti as a courier company and as a logistics firm, yes, believe so. We are making inroads, but as said, it is difficult. It's still at a very nascent stage. There's a lot of research, use cases which have to be done. And I think over time, we will be successful and we will slowly move out from coal and other fossil fuels more into solar or other fuels which will help the EV drive basically.
Thanks, Ranjit. So we have just run out of time. I just want to thank you everyone for your kind participation. Back to the folks from IMAI.
Thank you so much, everyone, for such an insightful discussion. We do have certain questions which have come up on the Q&A chat. We would like to take those. I'll just put it out to all the panelists, and we can just begin from there. All right. So we have a question from Mr. Venkat Madhav. How do you see the EV vehicles transformation from ICE vehicles? And market is tough to adopt 3W vehicles due to low loading factor as compared to current Tata Ace, which carries. I think it's more of a comment than a question. All right. So I just want to go ahead with another question, which is from Mr. Praneeth Bala. How does Porter fit into places like Netmeds/Swiggy? Why don't Swiggy and Netmeds leverage Porter services to be more agile? Would you want to take this forward, Mr. Garg, and put it out to all the panelists?
Thanks, Praneeth. I think, as you rightly said, Swiggy and Netmeds are
Why don't we leverage what services? I didn't get the.
So it's a question whether Porter can service Netmeds and players like Swiggy for last mile delivery.
Yeah.
I still didn't get it. Why don't we do what with Swiggy?
A porter can do both Netmeds and Swiggy together. Is that the question is?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have actually said this before, that in some cases, the Swiggy delivery man can stop by Netmeds and pick up some anti-acid medicine for after the dinner in case it doesn't suit him right.
But I think it happens already with especially services allowing us to have multiple pickups happening. So porter should be able to do that. So one porter is picking up multiple things on the way and delivering it to several peoples on the way. So not necessarily you have to have only one customer and multiple things, but you can have multiple customers, multiple items being managed by one person.
Yeah. So Prashant, I would like to add a few things to him. During the course of the pandemic, and this is specifically for players like Netmeds and Swiggy, during the course of pandemic, one thing which we saw, which really was a very different phenomena from last year, that was that though our LCV or large truck business was down because of the obvious reasons, but our two-wheeler business really picked up and it went beyond our previous highs. And two industries which were predominantly using us was food delivery and the pharma. And so we are fully equipped to actually not only serve local small and medium enterprises, but we have been serving a lot of large organizations and even a lot of courier companies for their last mile delivery. So we are ideally suited to do it. It's a call Netmeds and Swiggy have to take at what point and when.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the timing is so difficult to work out. You know, the Swiggy guys want their food right now. And in some cases, the Swiggy delivery guy may be traveling a couple of kilometers. The Netmeds order may have traveled a couple of thousand kilometers. So it's kind of tough to sync that up, even though it is the last mile. It seems like a challenge to get it to happen under the right timings.
Yeah, agree. I think we are over time by a good 5 minutes. So
I have one last question, which is for Swiggy. It says that has Swiggy done any electric vehicles trials?
Yeah. We have been doing.
Hello, we still have time, so it's just time to 5:30. So if you have any question to the panelists, it's fine.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, we're talking about Swiggy for the electric vehicles trial. Please share your comments.
Yeah, we have been over the last 1.5 years doing a wide range of bikes, all the way with less than 25 kilometers kind of bikes, which require no additional license from road transport authorities, to larger ones of different makes, as well as under different models where we lease bikes, we do rentals, we do mobility as a service. So I would very much say that this is in a laboratory kind of a phase where multiple experiments are being done. I get a feeling that we're on the cusp of, when I say we, the industry, electric vehicle two-wheeler industry, on the cusp of delivering something big, but the answer is still not out there.
All right, great. So I would like to, because we still have like another 5 minutes, I would like to ask all the panelists to share 1 to summarizing points on this entire discussion. I think that would really help our audience, as one last summarizing points from all of you. That would be great.
Let's start with Abhijit.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. It was pretty engaging conversation, and it was it covered lots of aspects of the business as well as the operations and also the current situation we are in. As a tech provider or the location tech provider, we are very well aware that the pain points of the various stakeholders they're going through and they potentially would see in future. So a couple of points which when I've taken notes and from a trend perspective and where we will come into the picture and potentially can help. So it's going to scale further. So last mile delivery as a kind of ecosystem is going to scale further beyond what we are seeing today. And why would it happen is the demographics, which is consuming the last mile based, the goods and services, that's going to change drastically. The income group or the social group is going to change. But what it also means is going beyond these current cities or the neighborhoods. It's going to the next level, right? So that adoption will happen because of the smartphone penetration and internet penetration and the population which is very savvy with such application. So that will scale further. We will see more and more big data will getting generated. Now the question is, what do we do with the data, and how do we utilize such data from an analytics perspective, derive services out of it. And the most important is that how do we support various service provider and support them while they continue to do what they are very good in doing at, right? Because that ecosystem support is going to be very, very important for the likes of the Swiggies and help them to kind of take care of the customer satisfaction. So it's going to be a very interesting phase which we are entering. We have already got stress tested. I used this term a few times during my conversation, but I'm really looking forward for the next phase, which is unfolding in front of us. Prashant?
Thank you, Abhijit. Bruce, do you want to go next?
Sure. Just want to say that it's, really an interesting and an important discussion. The last mile in e-commerce is everything. As I said, in our preliminary discussions, you do everything you can to build the brand, and then you hope it doesn't fall apart in the last mile. So everything that we can do, everything that we can learn, all the inputs that we can provide to the humans at the end of this last mile chain to improve the outcome for the customer is what we're all striving for. I mean, everybody wants to get bigger, everybody wants to get better, and everybody is hoping for the best outcome for their end user, the guy who's at the end of the last mile waiting for the delivery. So I'm happy to learn everything that I've learned from all of the guys that participated today. And so is Majnu. This is Majnu.
Thank you, Bruce. And we love your Majnu. Radhe, do you have a point of view?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the way I look at it, I've been with Swiggy for the last 4 years, and I look at the current time as a conclusion of the 1.0 phase of last mile reboot in India, where the predominant focus was on getting wider, deeper, and scaling up as much as possible. And I have a feeling we're getting into last mile 2.0, where the focus would be on further improving efficiency, not in an incremental way, but in a very disruptive way, using integrated technologies like the panelists spoke about. And most importantly, adapting, catching up, and redefining customer experience in last mile delivery, which is at this point in time, just moving things from point A to point B within time, which was the paradigm of 1.0, will completely become just table stakes and many more new things to come in 2.0.
Thanks, Radhe. Nakul.
Yeah, as a conclusion, what I'd like to add is that last mile logistics and last mile transportation would be the gateway for, spearhead the adoption of electric vehicles into the logistics and commercial vehicle industries. Today, the efforts that are happening on the electric two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and even the four-wheeler space would essentially create that bedrock and that confidence to kickstart that widespread mass adoption of electric vehicles in the country.
Thank you, Nakul. Michael?
Yeah, pretty engaging session, and we're very clear that on the last mile there is an area where we will continue to have challenges, and there is a scope for continuous improvement to meet the customer expectations. Quite a lot of options were discussed here, whether it is EV or whether it is related to customer data correction. But these are the journey which we'll have to also work closely along with the customer, and we will have to continue to find solutions basically to make life easy for the person who has to deliver and meet the customer expectations. So it's a journey which we will all have to continuously work upon.
Thank you, Michael. Manish, you have a point of view?
Manish, you're on mute.
Manish, you are on mute.
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, there are a couple of things which I like to add. So I feel last mile logistic is a difficult problem to solve. And the nature of business is such, it has to be a supply first business. So you have to bring people first. And the technology is the biggest savior in this, which can really ease the things the way we go forward. Over a period of time, what we have seen, there's a migration or transition from larger vehicles to smaller vehicles. So from Tata Aces, we are moving to 3-wheelers and 2-wheelers. And large part of local level deliveries are happening through 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. I've seen this change happen in last 2-3 years. And I think all thanks to players like Swiggy's and the Zomatos of the world, they have really created this ecosystem of small 2-wheeler riders across the city. And I think this is one big change which we are seeing, that is migration from larger to smaller vehicles. Another change which we are waiting to see is migration from ICE vehicles to EV. So I think technology, people, and these transitions which are happening are going to be things to look up to. Thanks. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you. So Liza.
So just to again round it off, because we know that we can't do things by ourselves. No man is an island. There's no way that you can have a silver bullet in everything. Just to echo back what Abhijit has mentioned, we always work towards the whole ecosystem. So a lot of things that we manage to do, we manage to help our customers or our partners, or even our customer partners or other channels, is because we work together. So towards the last mile, we want to provide an open platform, not just for customers to utilize our services, but also to co-create and contribute back. Because whether it's location data, location platform, cloud platforms or devices and all that, in order to work together, we kind of have to contribute towards a cohesive synergy between things. That's the reason why it's called IoT.
Thank you, Liza. Mrinal.
Hi, first of all, thank you for a nice engaging session. A lot of learning, especially on the electric vehicles. The challenges are heavy. We tried with some couple of electric vehicles, but as everybody said, that the cost of ownership and recharging and all these things are mixed. Pretty, we are at least 2-3 years away. Even drones also will not come so easily in India because of the various security reasons. So it will be ultimately at the end 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, and individual people who will be delivering it, and with the help of porters and other solutions what we have, and our individual solutions what Blue Dart, DTDC, and Maruti have created. I think it's a lovely challenge to solve. But yes, life will remain pretty challenging. And as you all know that in primary cities, getting a delivery partner or getting a delivery boy is becoming day by day increasingly difficult, because we can't pay the way the others pay. So our struggle will be more and more, both for us, Mike and Ranjit maybe. So life will be pretty difficult on that front.
Thanks, Mrinal. Ramkesh.
Yes, now is talking on the important aspect of business which is going to happen. I'm sure in India, the e-commerce business is going to double in next 3 to 4 years, and definitely rural area is occupying a bigger chunk of population. It will increase more than double. And to resolve all the ecosystem issues which every expert today through their views has to resolve by the time. And I'm sure all industry people and expert like who are sitting in panelists are working to resolve for their individual capacity and organization. and we'll be happy to discuss it again and again. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramkesh. Ranjit. Ranjit is static right now. So let's do the last bit with Siddharth. And in the meanwhile, if there are any more questions, we'll address those before we close.
Right. Thanks, everyone. This was a really engaging session. What I want to say is, with the pandemic, e-commerce definitely got a big boost, and consumer behavior is changing. The supply is coming closer to the consumers. There are full setup of micro fulfillment centers or dark stores near consumers. What started out with, let's say, 5 or 10 delivery centers in a city, now it's, as the density of shipments increase, you would see hundreds of delivery centers, maybe a delivery center in a large apartment complex itself. So the role of technology, I think that is what is going to deliver efficiency, improve the service levels and satisfaction levels. But that being said, my request to all our customers, if we can all jointly collaborate, improve the data quality, improve the level of forecasting and planning, I think in the end, we'll be able to create a lot more value and improve the service levels overall.
Thank you, Sid. Are there any more questions that have come through and we can answer them before we close?
Yes, I think Mr. Ramesh has to share his last inputs. Mr. Ramesh, would you want to share your last concluding point, and then we can jump onto the questions?
Yeah.
Rankesh? Yeah.
I think it was Ranjit who got missed out. Ranjit?
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah. Ranjit, do you have a final word about the last
I think
70 minutes of discussion?
Yes, I do have something. I agree with Mrinal and with Michael and everybody else that yes, there are a lot of challenges in the last mile, but it's become interesting. We have some solutions over the last 4 years. Will EV be successful? I think it is going to be successful. We have challenges, but the roadmap seems to be going in the right direction. We will face problems in retaining good delivery people. I think that's becoming more and more difficult in the metros because there is a huge demand for delivery boys, and we find that people are difficult to retain. Hence, but on the whole, I think there's a lot of challenges, but it's a good challenge to have. And in the long run, I think companies like Maruti, Blue Dart, Ecom will work towards solving these challenges and will be successful in the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjit.
All right. So we do have one question, which is there from Mr. Pranav Chaturvedi. How much should be an expense on maps and location services as a percentage of revenue in last mile?
Perhaps the question best answered by Abhijit.
So look, I think it's very difficult to put a percentage, right? And the way we look at this is the value which we bring to every delivery and every transaction. So very difficult to put a percentage because every delivery had its own value, the value of the goods and the services, but or the dollar value of that. But I think where we bring value is how efficient is the services, or how cost effective it is. The driver partners or the delivery partners are satisfied. Do they have to do rework? Do they have to kind of roam around and look for the addresses? So those are the value which we bring for our customers. That's how we see this.
All right, great.
Thank you.
I think we are done with all our questions, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our panelists. To all the audience as well, I'm just going to put out my screen and share a QR code. We would like you all to please scan the QR code and fill up the feedback. Just allow me a moment. Here is the feedback form. So you have to scan your QR code. It will take you to a feedback form. It will only take max 3 minutes to complete it. It was really great to have all these esteemed panelists on board. It was a really insightful discussion, and thank you so much for addressing all our questions which came from the audience directly. Thank you so much once again, and please scan and complete this feedback form, and Once more, thank you very much, and I would like to end the discussion now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Stay safe and take care.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Bye bye.